What's going on, guys? Well, as you know, I'm a huge fan of the rack pull for getting yoked out of your damn mind. But here's the thing. There's a lot of people who they can't do the rack pull because their gym doesn't have a power rack. So if you're in that situation, I want to give you some really good substitutions. So whether you're at a home gym or just some shit gym in general, I'm going to tell you what to do, alright? So the first thing you should be looking for besides a power rack is a squat rack, because that's going to be the next best thing. Now, you know where the safeties are at the bottom? That's actually a really good position for above the knee rack pulls, depending on your height. Okay, so here's the deal. If you're average height, and I'm going to say at least 5'7", 5'8", the squat rack should suffice in terms of the positioning on the knee. It should be approximately 3 inches above the kneecap when you're bent, all right? So that should be optimal for you. And if you're 6 feet and above, you're a tall motherfucker, then that's going to be the perfect height for you. So you don't even need a power rack at that point. The squat rack is going to do you just fine. So that's what you do if you're average height or above average. Now, if you're a short guy, if you're a manlet, let's say 5'7" and below, then you're going to have to start standing on some 45-pound plates, all right? Or an 100-pound plate if you have access to that. The thicker the plate, the better. And it has to be a metal plate, not a rubber one. I don't want you doing the one with the holes and stuff. You might get injured. So make sure that you're standing on a plate so that you can get a bit more range of motion. And with that, you should have a pretty good substitution exercise right there. Now, let's say your gym, for whatever reason, doesn't even have a fucking squat rack. Well, number one, get the hell out of there, because that's not a real gym. That's a terrible gym. And it is what it is. I'm not going to accept you guys doing Smith machine rack pulls, because one of the things you have to understand is that traps grow through stabilization. That's what they do. They prevent you from ripping out your damn shoulders out of its socket. The traps stabilize. And the more unstable you can make the lift, the better it's going to be for the traps. And that's why the free weighted version is so effective, because you're lifting it up, the plates are shaking, right? The bar is shaking back and forth. You got to stabilize with your obliques, traps, upper back, everything. So stabilization is a key part. And that's why people do the rack pull above the knee Smith machine style. They don't get shit all from it because there's no shakiness going on. So the free weights are extremely important. So the best substitution next to the squat rack and the power rack would of course be the block pull. Now I want to explain how to set that up, all right? Most people, when they do block pull, they're going to pull off 2, 4, and 6 inch heights, okay? Because this is most specific for building the deadlift. But when I talk about doing rack pulls, I'm referring to doing them above the knee, because that's what allows you to get the most overload. Now ideally what you want is to do it Andy Bolton style. For instance, when Andy Bolton, an 1,000-pound deadlifter, so an elite guy here, did his rack pulls above the knee, he did it off blocks. He did 1,140 pounds off very high elevated blocks. I know Chris Duffin did the exact same thing, right? And I know a lot of strongman competitors will do the same thing. So what you have to do is get some blocks. Now, not all gyms have blocks. Most of them have aerobic steps, which is I'm going to recommend that you use. The only issue with the aerobic steps is that it might pose a little bit of a danger on your body, because I don't know what the weight capacity is. And with rack pulls, you can obviously go extremely heavy. I know that it could load at least 700 pounds, because I've done 700 pounds off blocks before. Never really had an issue. 800 it could probably handle, but if you start going to 900 and 1,000, I don't think these little plastic blocks can support that much weight. So do keep that in mind, right? So block pull will be the next best substitute, because it's going to mimic the joint angles that you would get from a rack pull above the knee. But if you can, listen, if you can do it off wooden blocks, like you go to a fucking Home Depot, you buy some wood, set it up in the gym, that would be very, very ideal. Or wrestling mats, because I don't think that the aerobic steps are that safe, to be perfectly honest with you. But that would be the next best substitute. So make sure that you can get something that you can elevate, put the blocks on it, just like an Olympic weightlifter would do his poles and stuff like that, and you should be good. That's going to be your number one rack pull, okay? And in terms of making the exercise even more hard, in terms of overload, this is where bands come into play. Now, I'm going to suggest that you buy some short bands, some really, like, you can buy them at Elite FTS, Rogue Fitness, put them on the bar, step inside of it, get to work. If you use the strong bands, you're going to get over 260 pounds of band tension at the lockout. So you can have 700 pounds straight weight with 260 at the top. So it'll be 960 at lockout, which is very, very good if you're trying to get some overload. So in sum, if you don't have a power rack, use a squat rack. If you don't have a squat rack, fuck the Smith machine and do the block pulls. When you do the block pulls, make sure that it's above the knee. It could be at the kneecap or slightly above it, but make sure it's high. You don't want to be doing 2, 4, and 6 inch. That's more specific for powerlifting. And ideally, you want to use the wooden blocks or wrestling mat. But if you got to use the aerobic steps, do keep in mind the safety of the lift. Like, you're gonna have to roll with 700, 800 pounds at the absolute max if you want to be safe. So that's my take on it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know how this goes out for you in the gym. And that's it. I'll talk to you guys next time.